Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sue Williams, and I'm the CEO of the Children's Trust of South Carolina, and I want to thank all of you for being here today. Children's Trust is the only statewide organization dedicated to the prevention of abuse and neglect before it happens. And before we get started, I want to thank the Governor and Mrs. McMaster for inviting us here today. I want to say that this is the first time that we've ever had an event like this at the mansion, and we really appreciate your leadership and support for prevention. I also want to thank all of you for being here today as we kick off April as Child Abuse Prevention Month, a time when we as a community of leaders focus on the many things we can do to support healthy children and strong families. Because when we work together and do what is right and good for kids and their families, South Carolina will be strong today and into the future. So as many of you know, our organization was started in 1984 by the General Assembly, and our purpose was and still is to fund innovative community programs that work to prevent child abuse and neglect and injury and meet the critical needs of our state's children. While that focus has not changed, what we know about the discipline of prevention has changed. We've learned that damages from abuse are countless, not only for the child, but for our state workforce. Research tells us that victims struggle beyond childhood and well into their adulthood. You see, we now know that adverse childhood experiences, also known as ACEs, create toxic stress that can impede normal growth and development. These ACEs include physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, living in poverty, violence in the home, living with a substance abuser, living with a mentally ill person, or living with someone who is or has been incarcerated. Children who experience this trauma are far more likely to become adults with problems like depression, alcoholism, obesity, heart and liver disease, and decreased workplace performance. We believe prevention is the best investment and guides the work that we do at Children's Trust, because we know that working upstream is effective and efficient to address abuse before the crisis situation occurs. However, creating great childhoods for all children does not lend itself easily to a single solution. We know that effective prevention programs must work together and include parents, because if families are strong, then the likelihood is so much greater that children will be safe. So we focus on a two-generation strategy, working with extended families to break this extended cycles of abuse and neglect to bring about lasting change for children and their children. We are proud of the work that we do to bring home visiting programs to new mothers and children throughout South Carolina to help those new mothers be their child's first teacher, especially in those critical first 1,000 days. Additionally, in an incredible public-private partnership with the Department of Social Services and the Duke Endowment, we're implementing the Strengthening Families program in 26 counties across South Carolina. And through these efforts, we are reaching thousands of children and parents who need help. However, of the 1 million children in our state, there were 17,662 children in founded cases of child maltreatment last year. That's enough to fill 236 school buses. And those cases cost South Carolina approximately $1 billion in direct and indirect expenses associated with the intervention and treatment of child abuse and neglect. Therefore, we must connect the dots between national partners, federal and state agencies, the faith community, nonprofit organizations, and the families we all serve across South Carolina. We work to do that every day and are proud to announce that our partnerships have led to an investment of $9,142,694 for the prevention programs this year in South Carolina. So today, on the kickoff of Child Abuse Prevention Month, I say thank you to our leaders, Governor McMaster, Director Alford, who unite with us in this call for prevention. We all agree that children should have the opportunity to grow up healthy, nurtured, safe, and strong. We know that proven prevention programs, when implemented effectively, have the power to transform families. We thank all of those who are working to make South Carolina strong now and into the future. And next, I'd like to introduce Susan Alford, Director of the South Carolina Department of Social Services. DSS is one of South Carolina's largest state agencies, and DSS strives to strengthen families through dozens of programs and partnerships in the areas of child and adult welfare, child support, and economic services. Ms. Alford has worked for nearly 40 years as a child and victim advocate in South Carolina. Susan? Thank you, Sue.
Thank you and good afternoon. Every day in South Carolina, we get 140 calls about children who are abused or neglected. That's 4,200 calls every month of the year. more than 50,000 calls each year. Those calls brought us last year more than 17,660 child victims of abuse and neglect. And it's important to remember that these aren't just numbers or statistics. These are 17,662 children. That's the population of more than 30 elementary schools. That's about the number of seats in the Colonial Life Arena. That's 17,662 too many. Our children need to be safe and protected. That's not complicated and that's not controversial. It's something we as South Carolinians can all agree on. That's why it's so critical that we prevent child abuse and neglect, but also that we serve these children well. They deserve our best efforts to help them survive, recover, and thrive as they try to become loving, healthy adults. Even though we don't have those children here with us today, it's my responsibility to bring their voices into everything that we do. If they were here, this is what they would say to you. They want their parents to get better so they can go home. When their parents can't get better, they still want to stay within their extended families, whether that's a grandfather or a grandmother or an aunt or an uncle or a coach or a pastor. If they have to go into foster care, they want to go into a warm, loving family, but they want to move very quickly to an adoptive family or a permanent family. They want to grow up with their brothers and sisters, and they want to stay close to their friends, to their community, to their schools, to their churches, and all the other institutions that give their lives meaning. We at DSS are engaged in reforming child welfare so we can help children get what they need. We, along with a large network of foster caregivers and lots of helpers, go in and start these children in a healing process. And we speak loudly on their behalf. But we have to focus on building systems that can support their safety, their permanency, and their well-being. Equally important in this equation are our partners, and I'm very happy to see a number of them represented here today. I can't state enough how much they contribute to the issue of child abuse and neglect by reducing risk, by educating parents, and ultimately by trying to bring broken families to becoming successful families. Everyone here and everyone across South Carolina who advocates for our children are an important part of the formula that we need for success. That includes child advocates, law enforcement, mental health providers, educators, nonprofits, social workers, our family court network, our lawmakers, and yes, our governor. It takes all of us to do our part to reduce risk, to strengthen families, and we thank all of you for being part of that solution. I believe in my heart that South Carolinians are generous people, and we view children as our most precious resource. So today I would ask you to do one thing. When you get back to your home or your office, take a few minutes and think of these children and the one thing that you could do to make their lives better. There are 17,662 children that you can help serve today. Help a family that's struggling in your community. Ask your church to support a kin caregiver so that an abused child can be taken care of by an extended family member. If you are able, open your home and become a foster parent. Offer support in some way to foster children in your community. We ask you to open your heart and consider the one thing that you can do. One tangible, real thing. Because our children, as I'm sure we would all agree, deserve the best that all of us can offer. It's my pleasure to lend the podium to the governor of the state of South Carolina, Governor Henry McMaster.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you. And also, Sue Williams, thank you very much for your outstanding work. I'd also like to recognize Senator Katrina Shealy, who is here, for your outstanding leadership in this and other areas as well. Briefly, ladies and gentlemen, you've all heard of the great author Pat Conroy, who passed away not long ago. And in what he described as his last love letter to the people of South Carolina, you remember he attended the Citadel, he wrote books, he's quite well known in this country and others. He said that Pawleys Island is the most beautiful place in South Carolina. I wish every child had the chance to grow up there. Well, I'm one of those who did not grow up there, but I did spend every summer of my life sometime at Pawleys Island, and I can confirm what he says. It is a beautiful place, but South Carolina is full of beautiful places. They're all over South Carolina. That's one reason we have people coming from all over the world to come here. People are moving in, people are buying homes, buying second homes, starting businesses, and it is a wonderful place. But there are a lot of children who do not grow up happily. The Declaration of Independence speaks of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Happiness is a very important word. It was important to Thomas Jefferson, it's important to others, and it's important to us. We have children trying to grow up in our lovely state that don't have a chance unless somebody helps them. I've in the last few years had the opportunity to meet with industrial leaders and big businesses and executives from all over the country and all over the world, and every one of them says that the reason they're interested in investing billions of dollars in South Carolina is because of the greatness of the people of South Carolina. But deep underneath that is the trouble that we have with child abuse. It is a scar on us that we must eradicate. I had recently a business executive who'd hired thousands and thousands of people say that when they have a job opening, they ask for applications, and sometimes they get hundreds of thousands of applications for just a few jobs. But sometimes between 30% to 50% to even up to 70% of those people are automatically disqualified, those applicants, because they have a history of domestic violence or drugs or alcohol abuse. Now, that's not good. And that also reflects what's going on. It reflects what's going on in the lives of a lot of these children. So this is something we can do something about. The business of South Carolina is business. We're growing. We're entering a period of new prosperity. But it is everybody's business. The prevention of child abuse is everybody's business, every citizen's business, not just institutions, not just organizations, but every citizen's obligation to do his or her part for this state to see that we eliminate child abuse in this state. Any child abuse at all in this state is way too much. So that is why I'm pleased to issue this governor's proclamation on behalf of the almost 5 million people in South Carolina, proud, happy South Carolinians, to say as follows. State of South Carolina Governor's Proclamation. Whereas South Carolina's future prosperity and quality of life depend on the healthy development of the 1.1 million children residing in the diverse communities across our state. And whereas preventing child abuse and neglect must be a priority that requires individuals, families, child-serving organizations, schools, faith-based groups, businesses, government agencies, and civic leaders to support the physical, emotional, social, and educational well-being of all children. And whereas child abuse is a serious public health issue with wide-ranging societal consequences, as data show the link between the abuse and neglect of children and a wide range of costly medical, emotional, psychological, and behavioral issues into adulthood. And whereas parents and caregivers who have a support system of family and friends know where to find public resources and understand how to remain resilient in challenging times, are best equipped to provide safe, nurturing environments for their children. And whereas statewide and community prevention programs serve as proven and effective ways to reduce child abuse and neglect, no matter the geographic region, race, or ethnicity, and economic status. And whereas in the fiscal year of 2017, there were 17,662 children in founded investigations of child maltreatment in South Carolina. Now, therefore, I, Henry McMaster, Governor of the great state of South Carolina, do hereby proclaim April 2018 as Child Abuse Prevention Month throughout the state and encourage all South Carolinians to dedicate themselves to protecting the quality of life for every child. Signed by me as governor. And ladies and gentlemen, if we do that, and if we follow the direction and the leadership of those here today and others in this state, We can eliminate child abuse in South Carolina, and that must be one of our top goals. And thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Does that conclude these
so much.
proceedings?
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your support.
Let's do it.